A new national survey just came out, and it's the kind of thing that should make every Canadian stop and think for a second. People who work with a financial planner are noticeably less likely to say money is their biggest source of stress. They're less likely to lose sleep over it too. Same economy, same grocery prices, same housing market. A completely different experience of living through it all. Hi, I'm Stefano Francesca, certified financial planner professional and senior wealth advisor at Next Step Wealth Management with IPC Securities Corporation. I want to walk you through what this year's financial stress index actually found, why this gap between planned and unplanned finances keeps showing up year after year, and what it might tell you about your own situation. So where are Canadians at right now? 43% say money is their top source of stress, ahead of other stressors like health, relationships, work, everything else on the list. Almost half of the country is more worried about their finances than about any other one thing in their life. And it's not some sort of vague unease. 64% point to grocery prices as the biggest external pressure, a number that hasn't really moved in years. It's not getting worse exactly, it's just staying painfully, stubbornly constant. Housing is the one that's actually shifted. Concern about housing prices climbed from 20% in 2023 to 25% this year, a meaningful jump in a very short window. Whether you own, rent, or you're trying to help a kid get into the market, housing has become a bigger source of stress, stacking right on top of grocery prices that were already public enemy number one. So the cost of living isn't just staying painful. In some ways, it's actively getting worse. And honestly, most people watching this already know that in their gut. You don't need a survey to tell you your grocery bill's gone up. Here's the part that matters most though. Only a third, 34% of Canadians who work with a financial professional, such as a CFP professional, report that money is their top source of stress. That number rises to nearly half, 48% of Canadians who don't work with one. The survey found that those working with a CFP professional were less likely to report financial stress. These aren't people with more money necessarily. They don't dodge inflation or stumble onto some secret housing deal that no one knows about. They're living through the same economy, the same grocery prices, and many of the same financial pressures everyone else is facing. If you want to see where you actually stand, I put together a free retirement guide that breaks down exactly what to look at. It's linked below. And it's not only stress and sleep where this shows up. The same survey found people working with a planner feel more confident about reaching their goals, more in control of day-to-day spending decisions, and less like they're just guessing when it comes to retirement. The stress numbers get the headline, but they're really just one symptom of something bigger. Knowing where you stand changes almost everything about how money feels today, not just how it looks on paper. At the same time, there's a significant gap between those who could benefit from professional advice and those who receive it. The findings reveal that many Canadians believe they face obstacles to taking control of their finances. A full third say they feel like any actions they take won't make a difference, or that they don't know how to start improving their financial situation. So why the gap exists in the first place? Here's how I see it. A plan doesn't make eggs any cheaper. Nobody's financial plan lowers the price of housing. What it actually does is remove uncertainty, and uncertainty is usually worse than the number itself. Maybe look at it this way. When you don't know if you're okay, your brain treats every bill, every headline, every market wobble like a threat. There's no reference point. So sometimes it defaults to the worst case, and other times it avoids taking actions when it's absolutely prudent to do so. Is this the bill that breaks the budget? Is this the drop that wrecks retirement? Without an answer, your mind just keeps circling the same question, even when nothing may actually be wrong. A client told me once that before we sat down together, she checked her account balance almost every day. Not because anything was changing, just because not checking felt worse somehow. She had no idea where she stood then in relation to where she wanted to be in the future. That's what uncertainty does. It doesn't sit quietly in the background. It actively pulls you through whether you want it or not. We fix that. A well-built financial plan can give you clear answers instead. Not a guess, not a vibe, not something half remembered from a podcast or a YouTube video you watched at 11 p.m. A specific answer, a roadmap to follow, a service to keep you on track. Here's what you can afford. Here's what you're on track for. Here's what happens if the market drops in the next year. Here's what happens if it doesn't. Here's what actually changes if grocery prices keep climbing the way they have been. Once you have those answers, the noise stops being noise. It's just information. And information, even when it isn't what you were hoping for, is almost easier to sit with than a question mark. I'd rather tell a client exactly how much room they have than have them lying awake doing half the math in their head at midnight while the other half is missing. I see this play out constantly in my own practice. Somebody walks in convinced they're behind, convinced they're worse off than most, like everyone else somehow has it figured out, and they're the exception. Then we sit down, map out the actual numbers, and more often than not, the anxiety was never really about the numbers being bad. It was about never really knowing where they stood in the first place. Sometimes the numbers genuinely are tight, and that's real, and we deal with that directly. But even then, the stress actually eases the moment there's an actual plan attached to the problem, instead of just a vague, looming sense that something's wrong and you're not able to do anything about it. That's the real takeaway from this survey, I think. The survey suggests that people working with a financial planner were less likely to report financial stress. One possible reason is that having a clear financial planning service gives people a better understanding of where they stand financially, both now and over time. Two people with identical incomes, identical expenses, identical mortgages can carry completely different amounts of stress depending on whether one of them actually knows where they're going and the other's just hoping for the best. If grocery prices, housing, or the general noise of the economy have been weighing on you this year, you're not imagining it. The data backs you up, but you don't have to just tough it out and hope things turn around. If there's one lesson this survey points towards, it's that greater financial clarity plays an important role in reducing financial stress. Those that have their biggest questions answered, like how much, how long, and what if, are the ones that sleep better at night. If you want that clarity for your own situation, book a time with me. The link's in the description below. See you in the next video. Let's take the next step.